Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the Swear Word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the chili community, by the chili community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Man, have you ever wondered why a tiny chili pepper can make your mouth feel like it's on fire? Even though you know there's no actual flame, it's not just a sensation, it is a complex chemical dance that is happening within your body. Prepare to dive deep into this fiery science of capsaicin and discover how your pain receptors are playing a surprising role in your spicy food experience. Episode 132 starts now. Welcome on in, Swear Nation. So glad to have everyone here, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for being here and continuing to make this podcast what it is. I have two amazing products on deck from Spicy Caballero. We'll be diving into both of these. These are going to be able to elevate what you have going on in the grill, the smoker. You're going to be able to really elevate those areas, as well as, well, we're going to be talking about the chili pepper paradox. Really, what does that mean? You know, ultimately, how these peppers and capsaicin play tricks on our mind and what it all equates to. Let's go ahead and kick it on over to Hot or Not. Welcome on into Hot or Not. As always, have the full-length breakdowns that are going to be featured on Scorchin' and Swearin'. So if you want to watch these standalone reviews, those will be on over there. But we're going to be breaking these down to here tonight. And as always, I do not like to do a 1 out of 10 scale. I would like to do that out of 1 out of 5. Those are based off of 5 different categories. Those categories are heat, aroma, flavor, versatility, burn. Add those up, average them out, and that gives us our total swear word rating. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the first product. This is Boritex. This one here is a multi-award winning seasoning blend, so looking forward to jumping into this, but let's go ahead and get this one going. So it looks like it will lend itself amazing to be as a dry rub, as well as a, one to be able to cook, whether you're using a cast iron. A beautiful aroma. The second that you open this up, smells like a little bit of onion, a little bit of garlic. Definitely picking up what smells like maybe some black pepper or some cracked pepper. Let's go ahead and jump on in there. It does have a sprinkle side as well as a wide mouth so that you can get in there and get a lot more at one time if you'd like. Cheers. Man, oh man, absolutely amazing. I'm salivating like crazy over that. The second that you have that hit the tongue, you get graced with this great savory depth, a nice bit of what tastes like maybe some sea salt or some salt of some kind. And then you're getting the overall pepper flavor and body carrying forward. A bit of the garlic, the onion, what tastes like maybe a little bit of turmeric maybe. As far as the heat is concerned, you're getting a little bit on the initial front half of the mouth. The peppers kick in, they latch in, and it is a nice sizzle going on there. I absolutely love this. I think this would make a great blend to be able to use for, say, tacos, use for barbecuing, using for just grilling out burgers, steaks, chicken quarters, base or mix in for the base of, say, a salad dressing. That with a little bit of mustard as a binding agent, then you throw it out there on the grill or you throw it out on the smoker and let it do its thing. This is a phenomenal one for anyone, regardless of their heat tolerance. I think this would go great whenever making jalapeno poppers, to incorporate this inside that cheese and cream cheese spread with that bacon bits and all that stuff. You just mix that in, whip that in. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And then dust them right there at the end before you throw them on the grill. Let's take a look at the overall ingredients in this. Ingredients are sea salt, spices, so it doesn't fully break it down there. But then we got dehydrated garlic, dehydrated onion, annatto, paprika, turmeric, and citric acid. Man, oh man, absolutely phenomenal stuff here. Honey Boricua Barbecue. This is his first sauce to roll out. Looking forward to it. Absolutely love all the different seasonings that he has and the creativity aspect of blending that Puerto Rican flavors in with that Texas. So give this one a good shake. For all those that are keeping track, this is a 14-ounce bottle, and no, there is no perforation on the cellophane. Give this one a good shake here. The Honey Boricua Barbecue. Wow. Beautiful aroma right off the bat. A nice sweet savory barbecue sauce, but you're picking up definitely the notes of the pepper. Enough of that. Let's go ahead and get this one going. As far as the overall look and consistency, this is a nice high flow sauce here. As far as the color, it is a dark, deep brown color with a little bit of an amber undertone. Cheers. Man, oh man. Smooth, very just calm and refreshing. That's too good. That is way too good. Flavor, absolutely phenomenal. It's very smooth, savory, kind of a crisp break that I can't tell if that's either citrus or vinegar or some of what tastes like maybe some pepper going on in there, some garlic, some onion. As far as the overall heat is concerned, and is this something that you're going to be able to handle? If you're just starting out, this is definitely going to be a noticeable heat for you. But if you're working on your own personal best and you constantly are pushing yourself, this is going to be a nice mild to medium, closer to the medium on this one. Now, as far as the applications in which you can use this, not only as a marinade, as a finishing sauce, as something to cook with, coleslaw or salad, or something like a cold, crisp vegetable, because it's really going to bring that kind of smoky, savory, barbecue feel to what you have going on. I would love to see this as the main sauce in a chopped pork sandwich. It would be insane how good this would be. Let's go ahead and read some ingredients off here. So ingredients are honey, cider vinegar, spice mix, and then we have garlic, sea salt, onion, Himalayan salt, black pepper, sumac, tamarind, cilantro, citric acid, lemon, canola oil, and then we have chili morita powder, garlic, paprika, salt, spice, red pepper powder. Still within reach for those that are just starting out, but also something that those that are constantly pushing themselves can appreciate, respect, love, and enjoy. I think you did this one perfectly, Ed. So kudos there. Continue to make these great products. If you enjoyed the products that are featured here tonight, I'll have the direct links down below for them, as well as a link to the main site so you can check out the full lineup of amazing products. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and kick it on over to our discussion on the chili pepper paradox. All right, so when we bite into a chili pepper, we're not actually eating something that is hot. The pepper itself isn't burning us. It's not molten lava. Yet our brains are convinced that there's a fire in our mouths. And oftentimes that paradox is the fact why something physically cool can cause us to sweat, tear up, and oftentimes run for the closest drink and start gulping down water like we're trying to escape the flames. All this is to say thanks to the molecule called capsaicin. So, what is capsaicin? Well, capsaicin is the active compound within inside the chili peppers that cause the trick to play out. This trick ends up messing with our nervous system and causing it to feel like it's sensing heat where there really is none. Across cultures, from everywhere from like Mexico, Thailand, India, the USA, people embrace this fiery sensation, not just as a flavor, but as tradition as a challenge, and even as a bonding ritual. Evolutionary biologists really start to believe that capsaicin evolved as a plant's defense mechanism to mammals like us from eating these peppers, while still allowing the birds and those that don't have these receptors to capsaicin to be able to spread the seeds far and wide. That's why you see so many natural varieties everywhere, because the plants be able to produce the peppers. The peppers are then eaten by the birds then fly around, and as they pass through their system, falls right into the ground, and, well, nature takes over. So the question is, why do we keep coming back for more? And to answer that, well, we need to understand what's happening more at a molecular level. So decoding this molecular inferno, really it starts to come down to one thing. And at the heart of this all is this fiery dance that is a special protein called TRPV1 or TRPV1. Think of TRPV1 as a lock. And, well, capsaicin in this case, that's the key that fits perfectly. So TRPV1 is a receptor that is in your nervous system and is designed to detect real heat, like, the hot stove or boiling water or a scorching hot pan. Well, when the capsaicin binds to the TRPV1, your brain receives the same electrical signal that it would if your tongue was literally set on fire. That's why the chili pepper's heat is often called or referenced as a chemical heat. It's your body being tricked into believing that there is a thermal danger when there really isn't. Here's the more fascinating contrast between the two. You have real heat, which actually can cause damage to the tissue, prolonged exposure can lead to death, etc. Human nature kicking in, telling you, get out, run away, don't want any part of this. And then you have capsaicin, on the other hand, doesn't have heat, but your nervous system can't immediately tell the difference, so it sounds the alarms, which ultimately starts to explain why your lips tingle, while your tongue burns, and why your eyes water, even though you have not actually been harmed. So why does our bodies go through this response? Well, we've already touched on it. It's the TRPV1. So once the TRPV1 fires off, those pain signals are sent to the body, and your body just reacts in full force. Immediately, you start to experience the sweating. You feel your body as it starts to think that it's overheating. It triggers this sweating response, which is your body's natural way of trying to cool you down. Along with that, you start to have an increased heart rate. This right here is simply the survival response, pumping the blood to help prepare your body to tell you to get out of danger. And, well, the last one here, this is where the endorphins are released, and this is your brain's fight for the pain as it's being received, and that gives it that really feel-good chemical to be able to help have that. Some people like to call it pepper high, chili high, capsaicin high, endorphin dump, is really all these things that you're getting. It's something that you end up experiencing. But so many end up stopping before the endorphins actually hit. So what does it take to get there? Well, as you start to really push yourself, it is much more of, as we will continue to talk here, much more of a mental game than it is, say, an actual physical one. So oftentimes our brain, via this nervous system with the TRPV1, is being told, hey, you're in danger, get out of here for survival purposes. This is what your body's trying to do. We are hardwired as these beings that have had to evolve and survive and thrive. And so inherently, our bodies want to try to keep us alive, which is perfectly normal. But in this case, our brain is being tricked by the capsaicin, tricked by the TRPV1. Now, some people lean into this cycle of the endorphin dumps, and so they'll chase hotter peppers and sauces, while others avoid it altogether. The difference often comes down to tolerance. With repeated exposure, TRPV1 receptors can actually become less sensitive. In other words, if the more of the capsaicin, the more of the peppers, the more of the spicy food that you are eating, the more your body adapts and the more heat you can inherently handle. So that's why you always see chili heads pushing themselves to the limits of the Scoville scale. Now, while you're working on your own tolerance, and I know I've mentioned this quite a few other times, another area at which is extremely beneficial to your overall tolerance and the exposure, and as that tolerance builds, is you start to be able to identify, pinpoint, and appreciate the different flavor profiles, the way that the heat comes on, the different areas that it burns, how it sits there. You start to notice the more nuanced things that otherwise you would have just been far too burned up mentally to be able to identify these things, because your brain can only process that one thing at a time. So as that tolerance builds, then you start to get more flavors, you start to get more of a body, more of a profile, and you start to appreciate the things that you are eating. This also adds into why so many people like to build their tolerance, push themselves, is to expand their palate, expand their range of what they know and what they appreciate. So what happens beyond the burn? Well, capsaicin has many surprising benefits, and really there's a little bit of a story that kind of goes into this whole interesting aspect. So capsaicin isn't really just all about the thrills and the tears. It's really also a bit of a real medical value within it. Oftentimes, you'll see people will use capsaicin for things like pain relief. So capsaicin creams exist, capsaicin patches are often prescribed for things like arthritis or neuropathy, and even post-surgical pain. By overactivating the TRPV1 receptors, capsaicin essentially numbs them. It absolutely helps out by alleviating the pain that is being signaled to the body, to the nervous system. It is now focusing on the capsaicin in the TRPV1. So you can see all this happening. The Mayo Clinic had done a great study on this and released this, and it was back in 2023, if I remember correctly, that they ended up rolling that study out. So if you want to look a little bit more into that, I would definitely take a look there through the Mayo Clinic, look up capsaicin creams and patches and how they have been beneficial for, say, post-surgery pains, arthritis, etc. So you can really look into it there. Another great additional benefit from capsaicin is the anti-inflammatory properties. So studies show that capsaicin actually reduces certain inflammatory pathways, making it useful in joint pain and recovery. So, being able to rub this in and work this in on your arms, work this in on your legs, etc., anywhere that you have some pre-existing joint pain is going to be absolutely beneficial. Now, is this something that you're going to want it to just take a pepper and rub it on there? No, you're probably going to have a bad time. There's definitely already existing products. I'm sure there's great ways in which you can also make some of these creams yourself at home, but I would not go the route of applying just straight peppers to the overall issue area of inflammation or area of the pain. And oftentimes you'll see people that will take cayenne or some form of capsaicin pills, capsules, whatever you want to call them, to help alleviate these joint pains and issues that they're feeling, this buildup of pressure, because that will help with that inflammatory aspect. So another area that is often spoke about is the metabolism boost. Some research actually suggests that capsaicin increases the calories that are burnt while reducing your overall appetite. So that's connecting chili peppers to the modern day diet trends. Really being able to find ways to incorporate spice and do it in such a way that you can still appreciate and eat your food, but maybe you don't want to eat as much because the heat starts to become too much. So then you reduce on the aspect of how often or how much you do end up overeating. Now, there's so many of us out there that are constantly working on our own personal best, pushing ourselves, that starts to become a little bit harder, but there's never going to be a time where you run out of the overall runway to be able to have that happen. Because, going to the full end of the extent of the 16 million capsaicin crystals at the highest end of the spectrum, there's nobody that's out there making and prepping their meals with fully encoded and crusted in capsaicin crystals. Do I want to see that? No. That sounds absolutely absurd to be there. Will we ever get there? Not in my lifetime. I have a feeling that will not be the case. It's really about finding that blend, that happiness, and all jokes aside on the idea of a encoded, encrusted chicken breast with capsaicin crystals and encoded soaked vegetables that have been cooked with capsaicin crystals. That all silliness is not going to be a part of it. But being able to incorporate this sauce and being able to incorporate different seasoning blends, etc., will help boost your overall metabolism, which aids in the calorie burns, as well as controlling that appetite for the longer duration. Another area is around cancer research. There's ongoing studies that are always exploring the way that capsaicin's ability to target cancer cells without harming the healthy tissues. Now, this is another area that there's quite a few people within the community that have leaned into this to help fight cancer, as well as there's many documented studies online that also show this. Now, whenever you're looking at different alternatives of things that are naturally occurring versus things that are going to be more of an extreme nuclear route, you have the options to try both, but why not try and explore the more natural side as you're starting to get towards the more prompt, severe side of things? If adding some spice to your diet can potentially help reduce or control that, then why wouldn't you, at least give it a shot? So while your tongue may be screaming, your body could be quietly thanking you. Of course, knowing that the science doesn't make the burn go away, but what are some practical tips that are backed by chemistry? Well, here's where there's a few that are backed by chemistry, some of which I can agree with. Others I think are more on an individual basis, we'll put it that way. So first and foremost, when someone says, hey, I want to reduce my overall heat, I feel like I'm burning up, they're screaming, they're they're fanning their mouth, they're freaking out, they're going crazy. What's the first thing that they either get told or they try to do? Well, they grab for the milk, because that casein protein that's in the dairy helps bind to the capsaicin and wash it away. Now, is it a silver bullet that's going to be a cure-all to that intense heat that you're experiencing? No, but it will numb it. It will help alleviate it and reduce it, but it's not going to just take it away like that. So, with that being said, that's one avenue. You don't have to worry about that one too much, because ultimately what you're going to be doing is you're using that to help curb and end up reducing the overall effects that you're feeling. Another area that is backed by chemistry, this one I'm not the biggest proponent of. I think this one might fit in a different manner, but I'll explain that here as well, which is sugar. Sugar, it helps, sweeten. The sweetening helps kind of counteract the intensity. Now, while I brought this up in a manner of being able to cool you down in the moment, there are some people that will use sugar for that. Now, is that my preferred method or one that I would suggest for others? No, because really, if you were to take a scoop of sugar to help cut the intensity of that heat, it's not going to be great for you to have that much sugar just introduced into your system all at once. That could be problematic for quite a few folks. But second of all, it's not good, even if that's not an immediate issue, whether you're diabetic or not, to have a huge spike. But it's, I believe, actually better to be able to think of sugar in this way, in the sense of how it works whenever it's inside of, say, like a sauce or another spicy treat. The sugar is really there to help be something for when the person's creating this, to be able to help extract or to present a certain flavor profile or reduce the amount of heat that is being delivered to the end user. So as you are going through this process and you are, eating that sauce or eating that spicy treat, that sugar helped actually alleviate some of that heat that you're getting. That's why you may end up reading a sauce bottle or a spicy product in general, and you're like, man, this thing's got all kinds of insanely spicy peppers in here. I'm shocked that I was able to handle it. If there's sugar in there, the sugar is one of those many different additives in which that whenever making a sauce or spicy product can help reduce and actually drastically pull down the intensity of the overall perceived heat. Now, here's where I feel like this really starts to fall apart is alcohol. Alcohol is actually one that I personally have experienced as being not beneficial for me. So if I have any alcohol and then I go in to eat something spicy, like I'm actually trying to push myself, it makes it 10 times, 50 times worse. Whatever the case may be, it amps it up. So much so that if I know that there may be an event at which I will have alcohol, I will make sure that I have all the spicy stuff I need or want to have ahead of time, and then save that for after. Not immediately after, because once again, for me, it ends up actually reactivating and prolonging it. It kind of does similar to what water does, which we'll talk on that in a second. But that's not to say that that's going to be the case for everyone. I know plenty of people that is their preferred go-to for cooling down. You'll often see people that they'll have some, whether it be a spicy hot wing or spicy hot sauce or eat a pepper or whatever, and they immediately grab for a beer. That may work out beautifully for them. It may work out beautifully for you. You're going to have to figure out at what different path does that work out best for you? Because I can speak to that. Like I said, not working out very great for me, but per chemistry, backed by chemistry, that is supposed to also help cool down and alleviate the overall capsaicin effects. Another one is oils. So, capsaicin is fat soluble. So, fatty or oily foods can definitely help offset the overall burn, reduce the intensity of it, and help really fight that end, at the end of the day, that burn. So, you'll see people that they'll go do a challenge and they'll either prepare with a nice greasy meal beforehand, or they'll chase that intense hot item with a nice greasy burger or something of that nature. Or, I know I've used this before and it sounds a little bit counterintuitive because of how light it is, but I have also made myself a nice salad and made the salad dressing on a very heavy oil base side of things to help offset what is going on in the mouth. And it also helps being able to have that oil make its way faster to your stomach so that you have a weakening effect, if you will, to the overall cramping, the gut bomb, all these different things. The oils will help coat that and really make it a much more pleasant experience. So, something to avoid here is water. Now, oftentimes people's immediate reaction is, oh my goodness, this is so hot, I need some water. And they'll rush to it, they'll get it, they'll put it in their mouth, they'll take their drink. And sure, it may feel good while that cold water is sitting there in your mouth and you are just absolutely, taking it all in, you're having a good time. But the second that you drink that water down, congratulations, all you have just done is now spread that capsaicin all around in all these different areas that it might not have been originally, which ultimately makes things worse. So, sure, temporary effect versus lasting effect. You choose what you want to do. I will just say, if you're going to be grabbing for water, understand that it's going to do nothing but spread that capsaicin around. So, what would I also say? This is also what I do, is simply waiting it out. Remember, the overarching area here is that we have already talked about is the TRPV1. TRPV1 is that nerve receptor. That nerve receptor binds to the capsaicin. That is telling your brain that you are in pain, you are in a state of needing to right that wrong that is going on. Just write it out. Time will fix it. The burn will dissipate. You will not be left with a lasting effect forever. Just remember, your physical body is not on fire. It is simply the nervous system and TRPV1 receptors sending those signals to your brain. So, while yes, the Scoville scale remains our guide for measuring the concentration of capsaicin within peppers, from everything from jalapenos, cayenne, habanero, ghost pepper, Trinidad Moruga scorpions, and beyond, it's all a fiery ladder of human tolerance at the end of the day. So, looking ahead towards the scientists that are continuing to explore how capsaicin could revolutionize medicine and fitness and maybe even pain management, as well as the different new ways that they discover how capsaicin can help within cancer, fighting cancer and cancer research. That is going to be the exciting avenue throughout this whole entire thing. So the next time that you bite into a pepper and you feel the flames, remember that you're not being harmed. You're just simply being tricked. Capsaicin has unlocked your pain receptors, hijacked your brain and given you a ride that is equal parts agony as it is euphoria. Capsaicin is nature's illusionist. No fire, no damage, just a clever trick that transforms pain into pleasure. Now, whether you embrace the burn or run from it, that's totally up to you. But either way, the science is undeniable. The chili peppers aren't just food, they are an experience. So if you have heard of Trip V1 before and maybe you haven't, let me know down below. Have you heard of Trip V1 before? Were you familiar with the fact that that is the nervous system receptor that sends the signal to the brain? Have you personally felt the mental battle play out, and have you been able to conquer it? All these things are very much you locking in, holding on to what you know, and paying attention to the fact of your surroundings and exactly what you ingested to know that you are not in actual danger. That is just your brain doing what it should be doing, which is ultimately tying us back as we have been evolutionary beings, growing, evolving, and finding ways to continue to survive. This nervous system receptor is still there for that reason. If you've enjoyed tonight's conversation about Trip V1, about ways that capsaicin has played effects and mind games on our bodies, let me know down below if you enjoyed this, as well as if you would like to dive a little bit deeper into a specific topic or specific area within the community in which you either don't know about at all, or maybe you would like to learn more about. Let me know down below or reach out to me on socials, and I will be glad to put together a future podcast with that topic in mind. So, hey, want to say thank you so much to all of those individuals that have just recently found the podcast, rocking and rolling, checking in. Let me know all the things that they have been able to enjoy about what they have experienced and learned on the podcast, as well as the great guest interviews that we've been able to have. I look forward to all the future ones that are coming up here soon. So wanted to say thank you all for the ones that have just recently come in, and those individuals that have been here rocking since day one and sharing this out with other like-minded chili heads. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. And don't forget, if you are going to be at the Houston belt match for League of Fire's pepper competition, let me know. I will be there. I look forward to seeing you all September 26th. And, meeting y'all there, and of course, obviously competing as well. So it's going to be a blast. There's going to be spicy drinks as well as, watching some great things, some great vendors. You're going to be able to pick up some amazing sauce and have a great time sipping those spicy drinks and watching a lot of people burn and really gaining a better insight of the true nature at which the community is, there, and really being able to gain insight of who the individuals are, who the competitors are, by just meeting them, talking with them, not hearsay. So get there, plug in. I'll see you there. Want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you've hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all of those needs, as well as webdx.one. Maybe you have an online site. Maybe you had a guy at one point, lost contact. Maybe you never got around to building a website. Highly recommend checking out webdx.one. They make it simple, painless, and easy. And best of all, you get to focus on what you do best while they crank out something that's going to make you look great online as well. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.